Hello, world, and welcome to another podcast of It's Not You, It's Autoimmune with your host, Dr. Jocelyn Eberstein. Dr. Jocelyn Eberstein has over 25 years of experience as a doctor of Oriental medicine, medical acupuncture, and functional medicine practitioner. As a community, we are stronger and wiser. You got this, America, where good health is just a podcast away.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of It's Not You, It's Autoimmune. I'm your host, Dr. Jocelyn Eberstein, and on today's show, we'll be chatting with actress, environmentalist, and activist Rachelle CarsonBegley. I'm so excited to have her. She has been in this green movement for a long time, and one of the things that in talking to her before the show, she's super interested in the environmental cause of disease and solving those environmental issues. So today, I'm excited to have her on the show. I am going to be interacting with Rachelle because I'm going to be focusing on practicing and what I do about environmental issues in your body and what happens to you. It's a big threat. Mm-hmm. It's the biggest assault on human bodies that has ever been known. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Rachelle. So, as you may know, she's on the reality series on Begley Street and Life with Ed. That's pretty big, right? And she co-starred with her husband of 20 years. They have a family podcast, which is really cute. It's called Begley-est, and it's on iTunes, and I'm excited to have her. She's a beautiful, wait till you see her. All right. She's a beautifully successful actress in her own right, and she's been known for things like Falcon Crest, LGBTQ cult classic, but I'm a cheerleader, right? And she looks like it, right? She's like youthful and pretty and beautiful to watch. So I'm introducing you, Rachelle CarsonBegley. I'm so excited to have her, right? So I have some questions for you. So were you always an environmentalist? I mean, did you always, get into this green movement?
No,
or,
not at all. No.
Well, how'd you get to be such an influential Hollywood environmental activist like you are? You're
back
known.
up to when I was born. I was named after Rachelle Carson, the mother of the environmental movement. So
That's big.
That
That's
was
huge.
Big. That was about as far as it went. And then, but I cared. I've always been, a compassionate person who cares about animals and the world and all of that. But, I wasn't busy. I was an actress and getting on with it. And then I met this guy, this weird actor in Hollywood named Ed Begley. And back then, this was in the late 80s. And I remember him speaking about riding his bike all over Los Angeles and giving up his car and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, well, that's really good for you, Mr. Hollywood. You can afford to do that. But the rest of us plebeians here have to live, we have to drive, we have to get to work. And so cut to, I don't see him again. We connected at an environmental event. I was then coming to start to care and giving back some, going to volunteer for Friends of the River. And he was the MC, and so that's where we got together. And then a few years later, we, many, many years. We've been together 27 years.
That's like a status symbol in the state of California. And then being in Hollywood, that's even bigger. So
it was quite.
I'm just saying kudos. Absolutely. Yeah. And on top of being an environmentalist, I know you're really interested in health issues.
Yeah.
And so you're like a super health advocate, you tell me, for people around you. So what inspired you to become so interested in health? And, was it like just personal growth, or was it like people around you got sick? What happened?
Well, yes, my mother was always in the hospital.
Really?
So, and she lived to 89, so it can be done, So, but okay.
You can.
So my mother, that, and when I was growing up, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. So, not that would make me ill or anything, but I remember growing up in the 60s where, there was, unnatural things were happening. The Chattahoochee River turned an odd shape of blue. I mean, I just knew the environment was an issue, but I didn't really get involved. What happened was I kept having strep throats as a kid constantly and always had to go on antibiotics. And then as I got older...
So how old were you?
I was anywhere from 4 to 12.
Okay.
And then I started having stomach issues. I had joint issues early on too. So I had all these sort of simultaneous. I mean, my sister I have loose ligaments, my knees dislocated. I was a dancer. It was not a good thing for a dancer. Ended up having surgery in New York, but nonetheless, that's later. But so I've always had, why am I not feeling well? So the stomach, that I think attribute to stress, but also, overuse of antibiotics perhaps that, back then they didn't talk about this stuff. So, and then moving to New York, other issues I had, just health stuff. So I always was on the pursuit of fixing my own stuff. And then I moved to Los Angeles, and this is, I think, is the mecca of health. I mean, if we're not getting healthy, we're talking about getting healthy, or we're, hurting, we're talking about why aren't we getting healthy. So, and then I think the best healers are out here. I just think that it's that's the focus. And so with my own issues that really I still have. I still have stomach issues. I still have joint issues. The problem is that they're not so debilitating that I would go to a doctor and they, and I wouldn't, and now I know more. I'm not going to go and get Zantac or whatever it is, I mean, that's absurd. So that was the beginning.
Really? So as an environmentalist, what role do you think that in the environment has an impact on your health?
Yes. Well, that I've learned over time. Certainly, being with Ed, I was privy to some of the great minds of the world. Of all the environmental leaders, I got access to, and they started talking about, the earth, but then they also started talking about, I would hear the impact on on children who live near, power plants and freeways and all of that, and it started me thinking that the environment, obviously, and then the toxic load. So then this was years ago, and I didn't know from this, but hearing about toxic load, what toxins, until I experienced it myself. I lived in a house that had mold. And I didn't know, I mean, that's one thing that I had, and then neurotoxins. And so that whole world is opened up to me now because, we're talking about it,
So Ed has also a big interest in the health of the environment, or just that there's a big carbon.
Yeah, his interest is much more the carbon footprint, the energy source, the big sort of male kind of things. Mm-hmm. I've always been more interested in health and wellness, and I don't know if it's a female-male thing, but it's just, I care about feeling good. I care about the people around me, and another thing started happening. People started dying around me.
That's not pretty.
No.
So it's like kind of part of the problem, I think, is like you grow up, especially, in places that aren't as aware as in California, you grow up thinking, well, just live your life, come what may.
Yeah.
And then and then if something happens, we take a magic pill. And so it's completely wrong, because what's going on, that magic pill has stopped working, right? Since antibiotics, there's not much magic anymore, and what we're seeing is chronic disease. And chronic disease, it's insidious. It goes really slow, and then 10 to 20 years later, it's going to rear its ugly head up. So it's super, super important that we really take care of ourselves proactively before it ever happens.
Absolutely.
Right? And that is so much about environment. It's the environment that's outside our bodies and the environment inside. And that's part of the thing that I find most men, like my man, doesn't pay attention to as much as a woman. And I totally, totally agree with you. So what are some of the ways you think that people can change their environment, externally and internally, to really prevent some of these really catastrophic illnesses?
Well, I mean, first, being aware, and then you got to just look at what you have in your house. I always say the first place to start is your bathroom and your kitchen. Just go under your sink and look at what you have, what you're cleaning with, what you're exposing your body to. The skin is, as you know, is the largest organ. So if you're using it, you're smelling it, it's being absorbed into your system. So that's, your first line of defense is, do without. And then, as you know, what you come in is you start looking at your toxic load. Yeah. So what have you already accumulated in your body, But the first thing is to stop. accumulating if possible. Now, obviously, we go outside, we go on the freeway, we go wherever, we're going to start still, but it's a daily process that we have to. But we know we vote with our pocketbooks. Don't put money into things that are hurting you, which is Clorox, if you can help it. Although now, supposedly, it's supposed to help COVID, I heard. I don't know.
According to Mr. Trump,
Yes.
President Trump,
Yes.
excuse me.
Yeah.
And, and part of what some people don't understand, especially with regards to the skin products, like we give hormones and we put them on our skin, right? So if you're putting these micro poisons on your skin, it's getting absorbed like you won't believe, right? So really the rule in my clinic is if you can't eat it, don't put it on your skin, honestly. And, there's so many environmental toxins. And when we say, oh, by the way, it's this much lead or this much mercury to make you sick. Well, they didn't factor in all the 2,000 ingredients you're exposed to and have accumulated into your body. And your body, the way it works is like the solution to pollution is dilution. So what does it do first? First, it inflames, right? Second thing, it's going to dilute the toxin with some fat. So if any of you are feeling inflamed or fat, let's start looking. So really, and then you factor in there's some genetics. I mean, just like you said, everybody's genetics. Some people can just get rid of stuff. My husband can get rid of mercury like nobody's business. Me neither.
I don't have that gene.
Me neither.
What is it, MFAR or whatever?
MTHFR, that's one of them, but there's a few other ones that really can take you down an ugly road. Yeah. So really good to look at genetics so you really know which areas to really kind of stay clear of. I mean, don't get that total body burden test if you don't have a strong stomach, because you don't want to know how much glyphosate is in your body. No. We can't get rid of it. It is ubiquitous.
Yes,
ubiquitous.
Absolutely.
Even inner city people, they haven't been around a farm in ever. It's it's pretty bad. Yeah. So when you come across something in your body or somebody close to you goes, I have this health thing, what do I do? Like, what is your approach, your personal approach? How would you come around?
I tend to like to go to people like you, I don't have a PhD. I don't have an MD. I don't have any of that. I will say this. I got very disillusioned with AMA doctors. Now, don't get me wrong. When you need especially orthopedists, if your bone is sticking out and it's broken, you need to have it fixed, go for it. But I had bad knee surgery in 1979 that really I didn't dance again. It was just one of those, when in doubt, try and leave it out. If you can do it, if you can help it. So that was in my teens. I started getting disillusioned with sort of the quick fix kind of thing. That was supposed to be a quick fix that didn't work. So I try to stay away from, although I get a physical, I do all the blood work once a year, but I try to stay away as best I can. And so, what I do is find people like you who do my blood work, who give me the nutrients to mitigate and look at, how is my load? And now I know I have high mold because I had that test. I had mercury, I had the fillings. Now one time I did the fillings properly and took them out, and the next time they didn't. And I think I started getting arthritis right after that. Oh. Yeah. So I've done all this stuff. I'm a walking testimonial what not to do.
Not true, because it's kind of your gift to the world, because your experience, and if you share it and make it like a learning lesson, to share that is really a gift.
Yeah. Honestly. Oh, that's what
honestly. And
I'll talk about anything. I'm just like, oh. Yeah.
Things happen to us, and we either decide to become a victim or we take charge, right? And so when your doctor, you have this thing called a health care card, but it's really not a health card, it's a sick card. Yeah. So unless somebody is like, they have this thing that says within normal limits. You're looking at a lab, it says within normal limits. Right. And really what it means is we never looked, because those doctors aren't looking at those normal limits and seeing like, what's the trajectory? Is it optimized? So that's the difference that you're going to get when you actually, most of the time have to pay dollars to see somebody like that, but it's well worth it. Like I have my mother, 87 years old, doesn't want to spend money on a really good doctor. And what did they say? She's 87. And they told her, you don't need to go. She went to her wellness visit, and here's the paper to, the do not resuscitate paper. How, and this is in Boston, and this is what did my health care card cover. So what are you going to spend it on? I said, your clothes? Like what?
Yeah, exactly.
What? So I want to hear more about your house.
Yeah.
And number one, it got awards from the Platinum LEED certified built, right?
It's a LEED Platinum certification. So that's an extra certification that if you choose to do it, good luck.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And I'm here to tell you all the pros and the cons because it's a certification. And Ed was not going to have a gold. There's 3 levels: silver, gold, and platinum. And of course, he was going to go for platinum. He never really wanted to move out of the old house that we were in, which was built in 1920s. I had it. We were in that house, and I said, literally we had outgrown it. My daughter and I were sharing a bathroom, and that wasn't going to happen. So we needed to move. And so and in that house, I had it tested for mold a couple of times, and it always came back negative. But I don't think that was right. I don't know what happened there, but I would always smell it like it's odd. But anyway, so I only looked at one property, but I knew ultimately I had to take that house down. We had to build new. And if he wanted to do platinum, you just have to build new. So we found this beautiful piece of property, the great oak trees, and and he wanted solar, so it had to go on 2 stories, and it took 5 years.
Oh, I was going to ask you that.
Now, it doesn't have to take 5 years. I did a lot of things not right, so I would say get someone who's done it before if you're going to do it. I mean, that's one of the reasons I want to do a show. I want to help people sort of guide them through. Because it's very worth it. I mean, I have a completely solar house. It's it's off the grid. I mean, we are hooked up to the grid if need be, but mostly we run on solar. And from the street, you never see my solar panels. It's beautifully designed. I have gray water on the property. I have a 10,000-gallon rainwater catchment system, so it collects the rainwater. So there's a lot of things that I have that we live in a desert. We had rolling blackouts just as of this week because of this extreme heat that we're going through. So I always say my husband's not an environmentalist as much as he is a survivalist.
That is very, very true. Yeah. Oh my God! But you have got to be proud of that.
Yeah,
it's like birthing 5 times but only having 1 baby.
Yeah. Well, I always say, if you want to change something in yourself, find someone who does the extreme and just try to do a little bit of what they do, or marry them, and then it'll change.
Oh my God! So you've been spending. When did you finish it, by the way?
4 years ago. So we've been in 4 years.
4 years. So you're kind of you're settled in. So. Since the COVID, what's life like? Are you home? What are you doing? All the time.
All the time.
Have you found new favorite things to do?
Yes.
Could you tell us?
Well, I have a beautiful pool that is ozone treated, so no chlorine. I mean, chlorine every blue moon that has to, but for the most part, So I definitely wanted to mitigate chemicals exposure and have a watershed.
Explain what chlorine does.
Well, I don't really know what chlorine does.
Well,
so you're
I'll
the
help
doctor. I just know it's bad.
It's really bad. So number one, it's volatile. So it'll go right through your skin if you're having it out of it.
Right.
Your shower. So I recommend filters on the shower, and if it's in the pool, and it interrupts your thyroid. Ooh. It stops. It suppresses your thyroid. So it binds right there because the chemical is very similar to iodine. Your body uses iodine to make thyroid. So definitely, if you want to have a metabolism, do not hang out in chlorine.
Oh, those poor swimmers.
I know, right?
Michael Phelps and all those people.
Horrible. It's horrible.
Well, they can go to you and then pull out that stuff. Can you pull it out at all? Can you take
the chlorine? Yeah, you can pull it out, but then you've already damaged your thyroid by the time you figure it out. However, I want to hear what you do in that pool.
Well, I walk mostly because if I swim, this hair turns green. So we've been in an ozone pool. So I am in California still, and I'm going to look good. I have to, even if I'm 100, I'm going to have blonde hair. And so
God, your world is so rough. You are so, I'm telling you.
It is rough. So you take the emotional abuse with the physical abuse, acting, and then you've got so why do I need help? I'm doctors and therapists and everything.
Oh, honey, you look beautiful.
I know. But no, that's
beautiful. That's your favorite thing to do is get in that pool?
Well, actually, if I'm really being honest, my favorite thing these days is watching television. But
Any good any tips?
yeah, there's some really good things
Really?
out there.
Oh.
You know what I'm watching now? It's an Australian show called Offspring, and it's about doctors. See, I have a fantasy that I was going to be a doctor.
I think you know, a healer, but you're kind of a healer.
Yeah,
When
well-
you know, a lot of people have that energy and that kind of caring, which is a very special person. It requires you to be selfless, and that's what you
and
are.
curious.
Yes, and curious.
And wanting
Absolutely.
to figure stuff out like a you know, like a detective. It's just
Right.
a different type of detectivism. That's no word. Whatever.
So
know.
you're not feeling lockdown stress.
No, because I have this beautiful new home. Thank God we
you.
built this house when we did.
It's like by the grace of
Oh
God.
my God! If I had been in that 1,500 square foot home with Ed
You have
and my daughter,
This is called resilience.
yeah, I know
That's
that
a
wouldn't have
woman's
worked.
talent.
Yeah, so it was well worth it. And
Yeah.
but when you do build platinum, there is a whole criteria. You can't have Italian marble, for instance, unless it's recycled from someone's house down the street. I mean, there are real strict requirements, and then they check them off, and you pay extra for the certification. Do
Do you have to have like recycled curtains or
No.
Okay, thank
no,
you.
you can no, you don't. None of them. No.
You got to go to the thrift store.
Truthfully, by the time I moved into the house, I didn't have any money left.
Right.
So I had to go to the thrift store to furnish it. I mean, I bought
fine.
some choice pieces like an organic couch and things that you're going to sit on and be
Right.
on, like an organic bed or an organic couch. Because if you're going
Right.
to be on these things a lot, they're going to off gas, and you want to all that polyurethane and stuff. You don't want. I mean,
Yeah.
mitigate your toxic exposure.
So what's the gift with the COVID? Like since this COVID epidemic, I always feel like with
Yeah.
all this adversity, there's really a gift.
Yeah, of course, there's a gift. And the gift is slowing down, reevaluating what's important in life, you know. And the gift for us is, as a family, you know, we've have meals together.
Yeah,
We're
it's
together.
fun, it's sweet.
There's a caring that's happening, you know, like, no, don't go outside. No, you'll die. I mean, I remember the first time we went out, you know, it was like, they're out here. You know, and now I'm like out and I'm in a mask and things. And can't be cavalier about it. 'Cause
No,
it's still,
not at all.
but it was not
at
like
all.
that first time of going out. But nonetheless, so I think connecting. But now I've gotten the time to create a new show.
That's fun.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
so great.
Yeah, using
That
my
is
creativity.
so great. Yeah, and keeping the family together and really. What about your social networks? Has that been harder? Or?
No, I walk every morning 45 minutes with my girlfriends, and we've been together the whole time. I've done 8 COVID tests, so I'm a little paranoid. It's like really weird, but I did do. You know, I did
Did
a
you do the
Lifetime
rapid
movie.
ones or
Yeah, I did a Lifetime movie, so I had to test
every day? Yeah,
Yeah, every other day you have to test. And
that's
then-
nice.
Yeah,
Well, tell me about the Lifetime movie.
it's a Christmas movie. It's
This
Melissa
coming
Joan-
Christmas or
Yeah.
how do they do? Is that hard with the COVID?
It's harder for sure. Yeah, because
It's
you
like
know
new skill sets,
yeah,
right?
no, it's more
I'm
time
out the
consuming,
blocking
and I mean, once you've been tested, you can be, you know, within a certain amount of
Right.
space.
Yeah, but the most active
We're not
shedding,
kissing anyone.
right? But even testing. So just that, so you know, so the testing, the antibody testing, which is going to be your rapid blood test or any of the blood tests, you have to be like probably 6 days out, 4 to 6 days out. The worst exposure, and this is what gets me with people with masks, without masks, is the worst exposure is that day 1 to 3. Okay, 1 to 3. There's a reason for the masks.
Right.
And I wish people would be a little more selfless than selfish. I understand the politics, but I don't think anybody gives you a right to go and hurt somebody. You know, that's not this. Protect each other,
Yeah.
please. So anyway, I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm a mask person. No question about it.
Yeah.
But I do go out and walk in a mask, I will add, with my girlfriends, but we have been together for the whole COVID time.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it's really important to get out and exercise,
Absolutely.
you know. So I haven't stopped that. I mean, I have a Pilates studio. I barely go and see.
You wave to it on your way
Yeah.
to the pool.
Yeah.
Like-
but yeah, I mean, and so I have a routine, you know, and that's really been important because I get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, even though yes, and there's no
because
reason
of the
for
light.
me to.
Well, because of the light. Because you probably got good light
Yeah,
dark
good light.
cycles, which is really important
and I
for
wanna
your health.
walk before it gets hot.
Oh, well, we didn't mention that, but
Yeah.
it's like, get out.
Yeah.
I wanted, so could you share a little bit, where do you go to get information about, living more green, and what would be like the first 3 to 4 steps you would, for somebody who does nothing
Does nothing.
and has no awareness,
Right.
where would you start?
Well, you could start in our website, begleyliving.com. I mean, that is a place. Living green, that's probably, there's a lot of books. I mean, I brought you 2 books, but there are a lot
I
of
know,
people,
thank you. She's so
simple,
sweet.
like, green for dummies, what does it mean? But I really think first thing is just being aware of what you consume. Try to cut down on your plastic consumption. That's the first thing. Like, I have my water bottle. I bring a water bottle with me. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take some of this filtered water from my house.
What do you have? What kind of filter?
I have a Life Source, and I'm really, water is, as you know, so important.
Well, water is super important because it upregulates your detox system. So if you're not getting rid of the stuff that you're exposed to, very important. But again, if you're drinking the plastic, and I don't care if it's BPA free, it's still BP. And that gets in your system, and it's still what we call an endocrine disruptors. And I tell my husband, if you want to keep drinking out of those plastic bottles, you're going to grow man boobs. He doesn't like that very much because it's an estrogen thing. I'm like, come on, you guys. Don't do that. For me.
No, absolutely. And if it's not about the planet, just start caring about this ecosystem.
Yes, there's 2 ecosystems, guys. You got to do both.
Yeah. So I would so suggest just that. And then, as I said, look at where you're putting your money into your cleaning products, whether it's your skin cleaning products, whether it's on, your house cleaning products, because that is where toxins just are laden with toxins. Bad for the environment, bad for you.
Yeah, anytime you smell, like my husband used to use pine sol. I'm like, are you kidding me? There and even things like toothpaste, like Colgate has an ingredient that they banned from soap, but you're allowed to put it in Colgate. Yeah, please. I'm just a little info.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. That's why Environmental Working Group is vital. It's very, very important to check out your ingredients. And
so tell them a little bit about what's on that Environmental Working Group, because they're an amazing group, and please donate to them. But
it's a nonprofit that actually goes and takes all consumer products and breaks them down and grades them in terms of toxicity and what's in them, and gives you like the best versus the worst. And they do give a grade to them, and it's really important. If you've got any questions about what's in your, and that's probably the first step, is to start just open your eyes and go, do I even care? And then if you care about animals and the planet, then you start caring about yourself, or vice versa. And so then the Environmental Working Group is, they do the heavy lifting for us, basically.
They really do. And they'll even do things like, if you put your zip code in, or the area that you live in, they'll test your drinking water to see like what heavy metals, what toxins are in there. They won't really test if there's hormones in there, but we know there are. There's hormones in your water, guys.
There's hormones in your water.
I know. That's why things aren't working quite the same way. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about your mold experience, because that's really important. Yeah. And people don't understand, if you walk into a place, and I don't care if it's your hotel or if it's like in your kitchen or by your washer, or like if you smell a musty smell, get out. I don't even care if the testing is like, if you're smelling it, I mean, that's your sense. That's why God gave you nose. so you can tell if you should eat it or be around it or not. Right. So please pay attention to that. You have a lot of tools at your disposal. So anything else you want to add on the Environmental Working Group?
Well, I just know they're an incredible resource, and they do, as I said, the heavy lifting for us. So, but you also, if it's coming from your local grocery store, like it's Pine Sol or Clorox or anything from Procter & Gamble or those big corporations, they're not, they do now care a little and they have some green products.
Yeah.
But just be wary of those because there's a lot of greenwashing out there too. Just find out what you're putting on your body and if you don't care about you, care about your children, care about your animals. Because we're all in this together.
And the Environmental Working Group also they have an app. So don't make it a big deal.
Yeah.
Just go on the app.
Yeah.
And then you can look.
Plug
right?
in. So you got any questions about any products that you go, I use so much whatever brand lotion. Because if you're going to put lotion on your skin, here's another thing, sunblock. We need it. We live in California. There's a lot of toxins in sunblock. So
a lot.
I mean, this is Pandora's box, so we could be talking about that. But as you know, you just mitigate it where you can. There's some things you can't avoid.
And it sounds like it's a super huge expense, but the way to do it is once you run out of something, say, can I do this? Can I get this product a little bit better?
Yeah.
Like in a little cleaner way, and just a little bit at a time. Don't make it huge.
When I first met Ed, he had a can with holes on the top that had it had baking soda in it, and then there was another one that had some other toxic thing, and that was our Comet.
Oh yeah.
And then he had vinegar and water, which was so now years later we came out with our own line of cleaning products.
Great.
And now there's lots to choose from.
Right.
There's 7th generation. There's all kinds of wonderful. But so there's no excuse. And this, some people say, oh, they're so much more expensive. Actually, they're not.
Right.
And what is your health worth?
And it is your health. It's not just being green. It's you. It's all about you and protecting your loved ones. I mean,
this isn't political, folks.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, this is
exactly. And we don't have a lot of environmental concern in government right now.
Right.
But if we as all together do as much as we can change it.
And the FDA, you can't depend on it. I mean,
No.
not at all.
No.
I mean, what they've allowed.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, no, we can't get into that. So you have to be your own advocate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, well, one last question.
Yep.
So when you leave the house,
Yeah, when? Like today.
if and when you leave the house, like besides your phone, what do you take with you? What are your like, I have to have this?
Well, I am an actress. I don't go out of the house without makeup.
Lipstick.
Yes, I have to have a comb and a brush and my lipstick and my sunglasses because we want to protect our eyes because you only have two eyes and they don't want all that degenerative stuff.
I know.
And I think my phone and that's it.
And by the way, too, one of the biggest pollutants, the new cigarette smoking of this century are the EMFs, and the 5G is killing not only our microbiome but our brains. I mean, really.
What can we do?
Well, there's certain devices now that will actually, and I've measured it, can pull out the EMFs from your body. You measure your EMFs before and after the treatment. So I do that every night because I bought it for PEMF. And then there is a company named Gaia that is government. They have these little discs. They're government tested. This is what the military uses. And you can put them on your router, put them on your computer.
I had them, but I never really knew what to do
Yeah,
with them.
you just stick them on.
But now I got to get some more.
Yeah. Stick them on because it's worth it. You don't know what it's doing to the kids, to your brain. I mean, look, so the heart you used EKG on your heart. That's a pretty strong signal.
Yeah.
But your brain is micro compared to that. Microcurrent. It's really teeny tiny. So you can imagine that these forces coming at you and what it's doing to your brain disruptively. I mean, there's a reason we can't think. There's a reason get brain cancer from living near those power lines.
Who had brain cancer 40 years ago?
And the kids. It's kids.
I know so many people with glioblastoma.
Yes, the glios.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one.
It's epidemic.
Exactly. And the children. So please protect yourselves as much as you can. There's 3 mechanisms by which you get sick with this virus, okay? Yeah. And let it get in your body. So the first way is that you don't have an immune system that even recognizes that the virus is in and says, come get the silver. So how the virus takes over is it goes into a cell and penetrates because it needs a cell for its own energy production because it's not really even alive until it gets into the cell, right? So then what it does is it takes over, and then from that cell, it makes babies. It does this viral replication thing. So what we want to do is stop it at those 3 levels. So the first level is mountain attack. That's why the kids don't get as sick, but now they are. And then secondly is keep it from, if it gets past that first door, keep it from getting into the cell, right? And then the third thing is don't let it make babies. And and if you strengthen and keep that up because you need it more now, those 3 areas, and they're just simple vitamins. We just said vitamin D for the initial attack, but there's more advanced things. And actually, you can get that on the website or look it up on our website, which I'll give at the end. And then zinc, you can do at home. That's a no-brainer, right? We can find zinc. And then we want to take, to keep, and green tea. And green tea is so easy, right? It's accessible. Drink 4 cups of it every day. Done, right? So these aren't hard things. And you could just eat a can of oysters. That has vitamin A, vitamin D, zinc. Sorry. That's for you who have a little.
Can of oysters?
Yeah. It's like vitamin A and D. Like, your mom told you to eat the liver. Yeah. Well, now would be a good time. Yeah. Sorry.
How many milligrams would you say for vitamin D? Because
I'm going to tell you right now, it's best to check your levels to see what your absorption is, but minimum 5,000 right now. Yeah. 4,000 is recommended, but at least 5,000. Normally, if somebody's got an autoimmune disease, I like to take them to the top level. But now, if you take it to the top level, it's a little immune suppressed. So you want to stay like probably under 80. So to protect yourself from the virus, protect yourself from cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under 80.
80 on the labs when you get a lab.
Oh, okay. But it's not 80 milligrams.
No, you're taking 5,000. But when you get your labs from the doctor and request your levels. Okay, because not everybody really metabolizes it right, and everybody goes, "Oh, I'm in the sun." Well, the lowest levels of vitamin D are the lifeguards down in San Diego. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Again, I'd like to thank Rachelle CarsonBegley for joining us today, and you can find out more about her and her work online at RachelleCarsonBegley.com. And you can find her on Facebook at Rachelle.Carson.98 and on Instagram at Rachelle Begley. You can catch her on our podcast, Begley-esque, on iTunes, and I can't wait to hear about her upcoming work and see her on the upcoming movie.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning to It's Not You, It's Autoimmune. We are presented by eCenter Wellness, a nationally recognized functional medicine clinic where patients are empowered to become partners in their health. Learn more about eCenter Wellness online at www.ecenterwellness.com and learn more about our show, It's Not You, It's Autoimmune, on social media, at Facebook at It's Autoimmune and on Instagram at It's_autoimmune. Don't forget to like, follow, and share, and you can get more information about the show and get the downloads. It'll be on the eCenter Wellness as well as the podcast website, autoimmunepodcast.com. This is Jocelyn Eberstein signing off from UBNGO Studios. Until next time, be well and do well in the world. Have a great day.